All right. Hey, Masters, we have a special Sunday morning treat coming to you with my good friend Albert H. What's up, Albert?
What's up, David? How are you, man? Happy Sunday.
Thank you, my friend. Albert Hagdore, right? Is that how did I say it right?
Close, close. Hi,
Close.
Darai. Hi,
Hi there.
Darai.
Oh, jeez, I just can't seem. My bad, dude. Well, hey,
Bad man.
thanks for spending a few minutes with us here Sunday morning. We were having a conversation, I don't know, earlier in the week, and it kind of triggered
Yeah,
something when you had brought up this call that we made together that has led to so far, it's led to actually $30,000 in closed
yeah,
commissions. But I did the math, and I was looking at all the opportunities so far, and so far I think it's gonna be about a potential of close to $90,000 total. And then it's funny because I was over there the other day, and one of the neighbors came out and started talking to me, and he's thinking of selling next year. So it's just insane,
yeah, yeah.
when that happens. So I want to have that conversation with you real quick though. Before we get there, I want to acknowledge our sponsors. First off, we have Land Voice, is one of our newer sponsors. We've been working with Land Voice for years. Used to use them back in the day, and they've really upgraded their systems. So you get to check out all their products if you want. They have a product right now. It gives you expireds, for sale by owners, and pre-foreclosure, and you can check all that out. You get 3 months of that for, I think it's $120 for the whole 3 months. So I don't know how you can beat that. Check
Oh,
that out. Just go to pathtomastery.com I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Go to landvoice.com /path to mastery. That's how you're going to get that. Also, don't forget about our Facebook group, guys. Man, I don't know if it's Sunday morning. I'm struggling here to get this out. So go to our Facebook group. It's called Path to Mastery. You have access to everything that we have going on there, events, these early episode releases. Cool people like Albert are part of the group, a lot of real high level people. So go in there. It's just an awesome group. We'd love you to be part of that community. Go to Facebook, search Path to Mastery, and we'll get you in the group. And finally, if you're interested in what David has going on, just go to davidsevent.com at any time. You go to David's Event, and it'll always tell you the next thing that we have going on. And right now I'm about to launch something that's based on the book, the Sales Playbook. And then the next edition is called the Sales Call Playbook. So I'm excited about that.
wow.
All right, all that. And now back to Albert. What's up, brother?
What's up, man? How are you, David?
I'm doing well, my friend. Thanks. Thanks for bringing that up earlier in the week.
Yeah, yeah. I know it was random. We talked about it, but I think it's a good topic for people who call, and especially the newer people to understand. So I think it's worth a podcast.
Why do you think it's a good topic for people to understand? You said especially newer people.
Well, I can talk from my own experience. In the beginning, when I started calling, um, it could get tough in like the 2-3 months. It could get really hard because you don't have the right skills, and people are yelling at you, and you're not seeing results. So you're very tempted to like try something else and not really follow through with it until you see results.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about that, I'm like, yeah, this I really think people should need to hear this because it's such a simple example. It was a one phone call, ended up being an appointment, ended up being a listing. I mean, you can tell more of the story on how you end up making 30K already, and you're potentially going to make 90K from one phone call. So like whenever, in my opinion, I would tell everyone, whenever you're feeling down and you don't want to make those calls, remember, like, you could be one phone call away to make 90K in the next 3 months.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you said it. And it's funny because I hadn't really thought about it until you brought it up on Wednesday. And the
Yeah.
reality is, even though it was one call, right? And it was interesting because I think was it the first day you started? Was it your first day? I don't remember.
I
It was like
Yeah.
maybe the first or second day. It might have been the
It wa-
second day.
Yeah,
Might
man.
even been,
I think it was the first day. I really do. Excuse me.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
actual first day you started working with us, and we were making calls together, and then somebody answered and we went over his house. And it's funny, I actually remember now, you went with me, you shadowed me on your meeting, and then at the end of your meeting you're like, dude, why didn't you close? Remember that? We were
I
driving back to the
remember
office.
you were in the car. You're like, oh man, why didn't I close?
Oh yeah, you got in my head. Yeah, I'm like, dude, at first I'm like, I didn't need to close.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about it, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't, in that particular moment, and that's actually another good podcast episode, right? Talk about the close.
Yeah.
But I thought it went perfect, but then you got me thinking like, geez, should I have closed harder? But I didn't really need to in that case,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean, it worked out
Absolutely.
perfect.
No, it really did. And honestly, after that, it was a big takeaway for me of, I just, yeah, I mean, it's probably a different conversation, but we just don't live in that time anymore of like the hard close. People don't want to be closed like that anymore. You know, obviously you want to guide people through and make the sale, but no one really wants that hard close anymore or like sign with me today, you know, and
Mm,
it was fine. We didn't sign with a guy. A week later, he signed and
sure.
now we're having a podcast about that. So
Interesting. So
yeah.
so here I'll lay it out. So we called the guy, we went over, we met with him. He didn't sign that day. We had a good conversation. I gave him some different options and some things to think about, right? That's essentially what we did. He listed with me. The house went on the market. Right away, we had the open house. We had a bunch of people show up. This was before COVID, right? We got an offer. The house went under contract. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. It went on a little high. We didn't get an offer right away. It took a couple of weeks. Then we got an offer. But what happened was one of the people that came to the open house, they liked how we were operating. Remember those people that showed up,
Of
Lindsay and her
course.
husband?
Yeah.
And so they ended up listing their house with us, which went on the market at 325. And we ended up getting multiple offers on their house. It sold right away. Then they ended up buying a house from us, a $450,000 house.
Yep.
So again, now there's 725 in volume. That already closed, right? And now finally Linwood had gone under contract because we started too high. So
Mhm.
that went under contract. We were moving along on that, and then unfortunately COVID happened. Now that deal fell apart, and then Linwood went back under contract at a little bit lower, and sold. But now what happened was the guy in Linwood had referred me to one of the neighbors, and then the neighbors called me. This was again pre-COVID. I
Mhm.
ended up getting in conversation with her, stayed in touch with her through the whole the last 3 months, and she just put her house on the market for 519 on Thursday. Okay. And now there's two other people in the neighborhood as well, because what I did was I reached out to everybody in the neighborhood and said, hey, I just want to let you know we just sold this Linwood. We had
Mhm.
multiple offers. So who do you know in the neighborhood? Two people called me back, right? And said, hey, yeah, if you have an offer, I'd be interested. It's not happening that day, but it's put people in my pipeline. So that's when we talk about the potential, Albert,
Yes.
of 90,000. And then here's the cool thing. I did the open house yesterday over at Spring Valley, which is the referral listing. And as I was putting went over to Linwood, the next street over, and I was putting the sold panel on the sign, the neighbor came out and started asking me, hey, how much did you sell it for? Tell me a little bit more about it. How'd you do that? Wow, that's really cool. I'm thinking
Yep.
of selling my house next year. So here's another opportunity that came as a result. And finally, and then I'll let you talk a little bit. The owner of Linwood, you know who he is, Moshi, is looking for like a $700,000 to $800,000 commercial property that he wants us to help him find. So we're
Yeah.
keeping our eyes open for him. So it just
Yeah.
shows how much potential is there. And this happened as a result of the one phone call that morning.
That's right. Yeah. I want to go back to you said something that I think is very important. Uh, you talked about the open house and how we met the people at the open house, and then how that ended up being two transactions.
Mm,
Um, and I think it's important because you have to you when you have to keep in mind when you're holding an open house, uh, you have to be purposeful with your conversations, right? Um, I remember those people, and I literally remember them like today, and they were super nice, walking around. They liked the house, but it wasn't the right fit for them, and you could tell. But you just threw the question out there immediately, and you just asked if they're about their time frame, if they needed to sell, and that's how the conversation started. And it
mm,
happens to me too many times, but I feel like most agents will probably just sit at the open house and not ask those questions. And God knows how many opportunities you're just letting go because you don't ask the right question. And then someone like you will ask the question and get the business. So
yeah. I
you
think
have to treat it that way.
there's a lot there. I mean, again, there's so much in this short conversation.
Yes.
You're right. I mean, if you're going to do an open house, be purposeful, right? I asked them, what the time frame was. Would they like a free analysis, right? Hey, would you like us to give you a free market analysis, right? And it's,
Mhm.
yeah, sure, why
Yeah.
not? Which led to me going over. Again, similar to you, I went over. They didn't sign with me that day. And I'm in the back of my mind, I'm like thinking like, Albert, man, should I have got the signatures here? Because it's funny. Um, and then again, like 3 days later, they signed the agreement with me. So that was a big lesson for me because I used to push. I used to
Yeah.
push a lot. And I think there's a lot in this short interview. I want to go back to something you said though. You said, don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the one thing we're not talking about right now, and well, actually, this was your first day, but
Yeah.
I probably made thousands of calls before that call that led to nothing,
Exactly.
but yet I
Yes.
kept showing up.
Yes. That's
Right. So
that's
talk to us about your first, 2.5 months with us.
yeah.
Remember how many calls we made?
Yeah, I mean, we started in December. Let's just say we started January 1st, right? And between January 1st and March, we probably made calls every day between 3 to 4 hours. Um, I mean, and when I say every day, 5 days a week, with with literally zero results for the first 2 months. I mean, we were having like good conversations, but no appointments, no listings, and you could see how easy it is to say, hey, maybe this is not working, right?
Mm,
But whenever we just kept pushing just a little further, and by the end of February, beginning of March, I remember, in a matter of 7 days, I had signed, and this was pre-COVID, I had signed $5 million in business, and it
mm,
was all the calls that we made in the beginning of the year. But here's the difference, right? I know that happens. Like, that's how long it takes. Sometimes it takes a little longer, and then you build that momentum, and then you just kind of go from there. You just take off. But I feel like most agents never get to that because they prospect for a month and a half, they don't see results, or they see very little results, and then they'll stop, they do something else, then they get back to it for another month and a half. They never wait enough. They never take enough time for those leads that they generated to actually convert and see
mm.
really how this works. And
Well, right? So now here's the cool thing. Like I knew because I've been doing it for 17 years that
yeah,
although I'm getting no results, if I keep doing this, a result's going to show up.
yeah,
Right. So if you think about it, like if I think about the 90,000 potential, it really just balances out to maybe 30,000 a month for the 3 months.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
If you think about it that way,
that's
but
right.
the key is, and now, so now in your mind, Albert Hajdash.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude. I
That's fine.
need to learn how to say your last name better.
I'm gonna do like one of those
You should like a
pronunciations.
sign, like a pronunciation. You know, in your mind, Albert H, that if I do this and I consistently do this and
Yeah,
keep doing this, even though when it sucks, I'm gonna get a
yeah,
result.
absolutely.
Why do you know that?
Because I saw it, because it happened.
Because it happened to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I know now. I mean, I know it. Like, I know that if if I have have those feelings of, oh, this is not working out, I know what stage of prospecting I am in, right? And I know that I cannot stop because I am about to enter the next stage, which is I'm going to start going on appointments, and then I'm going to start closing. So you just cannot stop. If you stop, then that's the problem, is that if you stop, then you go to zero. If you stop and then you decide to restart, you're not restarting at like a month and a half in, and you stop and then you start there.
That's a good point.
It's like starting from zero, and that's the problem. And then you just have this up and down, and it could get miserable, and it's not even fun.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. Well, hey, listen, like I said, I wanted to keep this really quick. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot in this short call. What would you say to somebody maybe that is out there now? They're making these calls, they're not getting the results they want. What would be your advice to that person?
Sure. Look, I'd say, first off, before you even get to this part, just make sure you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about when you're calling people, right? Don't come from the point of, oh, I'm looking for a listing, right? Like,
Mm,
be a consultant, know your market. It's very important. I feel like it's not talked enough about uh, coming from that point, and especially in this time, I do believe it's very important.
I love
With
that.
that being said, continue prospecting and follow up. I mean, honestly, David, this could be like a 4-hour podcast
Sure.
because, you know, uh, follow up is probably more important than just keep prospecting. Don't go calling new expireds every day and then stop there. Like, our schedule will look like, for an hour, we would call new expireds and FizzBus or whatever we had, and then we would go follow up.
Then we'd follow up.
That $5 million business that I signed, I had people in there that I had followed up, that I had called 28 plus times in 2 to 3 months, you know?
So why
So,
don't we do this? Why don't we schedule another episode down the road for follow up to talk
yeah,
about that?
yes,
And what I want everybody listening to this to take from this is I want you to don't worry about follow up right now. Let's worry about getting in a consistent pattern
mm-hmm.
of daily making those calls. Like right, and the cool thing right now, it's actually easy because every day you log in, there's only like maybe 5, 10 new ones, if
Yeah,
that. Some right. The end,
yep,
but actually tomorrow's the first, so we'll have a bunch.
yep,
Just get in that consistent habit of making those calls, right? And then
absolutely.
have a follow up system. But I think people can get ahead of themselves.
Sure.
So now they're, oh my gosh, I got to focus on follow up, and they're not even making any calls to follow up on, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I just want people to be careful.
You're right. Yeah, yeah, you're 100% right, because you don't want to just follow up with the 4 leads you generated and just sit
Yeah,
there until. Yeah, yeah,
it's a numbers game, right?
absolutely, 100%.
I always share how I took 7 listings my first month in the business, but I don't think what people don't get is the fact that I called like 800 people to get those 7 listings,
Yeah, yeah,
you know? And so I mean, ultimately, my skills may be a little better now. That's going back 17 years, but
mhm.
it's a number. It's always a numbers game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Final words, man.
Keep prospecting. That's it. Just keep doing it every day. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a day, your decision, but you keep doing it and don't stop, and
Any
it will
way
happen.
that people can do that? Like I know when you were with me, I was grinding on you, so
Yeah.
pushing you, show
Oh yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Is there any way, any tips for anybody?
100%. Yeah. Well, get a mentor, get a coach if you can. Surround yourself with somebody. I mean, it's hard to find someone like you, but surround yourself with somebody who you think
They're
will
out
hold
there,
you accountable to. Yeah. There
or
are.
even a coach.
Yeah, but find somebody who's not afraid to make you to hurt your feelings and tell you the truth, right? I mean, many times it happens when you told me like, "Hey, I feel like this week you've been slacking a little bit," and then I had an open mind and I said, "Yeah, you are right, I have," and then I came back next week and I just refreshed and kept going. So yeah, I think it's very important to be around people who understand this.
I love it. Well, yeah, get a mentor, get a coach, join
Mhm.
somebody that's doing that, whatever. Just the accountability also is going to make a big difference. And that's another episode. We can have a whole little series starting
Yeah,
here.
dude, let's do a series. Yeah, let's do a
All right, my friend.
Sunday series.
All right. Say your full name for us now so everybody gets it.
Albert Heiderai.
Hadarai. I love it. All right,
It's
brother.
crazy,
Thanks
man.
for your
Uh,
time.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks, David.